as well. All right, getting straight into it. Our analysts are in this morning. It is Lakunle and Devoe. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning, President Zibby. Good morning, Lagos. And
Good,
winter is almost here.
good morning, Lagos. Good morning, team. A cool, renewed shege or renewed hope.
All right, so let's start off with punch. The pump price of PMS, popularly called petrol, of course, was raised from 537 naira to 617 naira per litre across certain stations in Abuja. Now, all across Lagos as well, there have been increases in the prices of PMS.
Um, it takes a lot of energy to discuss this story because when you calculate how much had to go into transportation this morning to get here at a new pump price, as well as the cost that you would use for your energy to keep light on. I mean, Nigerians, and then the energy you use to also boil water for those who have electricity. You see, life is getting harder in Nigeria. And when I say harder, it was hard before. So, whilst we were in a since May 29th, right, a few weeks after, we saw the increment in fuel to about from 195 to 488, all under the economic reforms of this new administration, the Tinubu Shetima administration, um, um, to reform the economy. We saw some shifting base. Now, whilst the subsidy was removed, which in a way deregulated the market, last night, or was it last night? No, it wasn't last night. It was halfway in the day. We started seeing pumps stations changing their price, and what was recorded that in Lagos, the price shifted to about 537, while in Abuja it went to about 617. Now, the NNPC said that on the last import that came into the country, that the landing price had shifted upwards. Therefore, IPMAN, who has the largest, that's the Independent Petrol Marketers Association, also said they received it at a higher price than usual. Therefore, by the time you add their transport costs, their margin, and some other uh, pricing, it would come to about, depending on your location. So in Abuja, it's at 617. Some places in Sokoto, Kaduna are selling at 650. Some places in Maiduguri are selling as high as 660, 670. And in some locations, if it's that difficult, you will get it at 700. Now, um, so it's obvious that many Nigerians will be groaning because we've been trying to cope. We've not even finished discussing how the palliative or how the efforts by government to cushion the effect of this harsh rise in pricing. And this is what we call inflation coming on the cost of living because everything was going up. And you know that the price of petrol has a direct impact on literally every other thing, from the cost of food to the cost of energy. And when we talk about energy, apart from transport, we're talking about powering your homes, powering your electricity either by way of the grid or by way of uh, of generators. Either you're using PMS or diesel. The cost of um, the cost of medical facilities. I'm just recovering, and I also know how much prices have also risen. Everybody's adjusting their rates one way or the other. The truth is this, right? Um, we're not against the market forces that are meant to dictate the pricing in the oil and gas industry. Nobody's saying that is a no-no. There are things that are meant to be put in place to balance this effect so that we do not die under the adjustments. And I've said this before, and maybe we'll take it in another story, that government itself cannot hand over the burden of many years of mismanagement on Nigeria in one fell swoop. Whereas those who had gotten away with the, what do you call it, with the stolen money, gotten away with the crude oil theft and co. None have been caught at this point in time, while we have to bear with the direct impact of what like what we don't have, like our working refineries. So I think in story 3 we will break down the reasons for this this misbalance.
Do you want to?
Okay, so this morning I bought fuel at 568 per liter, and what struck me apparently was I went through entire stretch of road that had about 7 filling stations, and there were queues in all of them. And the first thought was, I thought they said it was an increment in pricing, not that the product wasn't available. And so eventually, when I got to the sixth one where I eventually bought this morning,
Without a queue.
there wasn't a queue. Okay, so I said, okay, so it's just the pricing that's the issue. Now, at least one thing was clear: we're all agreeable that the subsidy regime had to go. And on a very cautious note, I would want to say that we should manage our expectations about what we should expect in terms of how quickly are we going to get over this, or how quickly there's going to be an alternative, a solution, or whatever we want to call it. Um, just also yesterday, the president also took a step back with the palliative thing they were talking about. I think that whatever money the government has to spend in making things easier with these things now should be used for something more productive, something more tangible than just handing cash to people. So in that respect, I'll say we need to manage our expectations. The government needs to help us, and this is where the National Orientation Agency, the Ministry of Information, and all government agencies that communicate with people need to come in and help us to manage these expectations. None of us, even if we got 10 years notice, we would never have been prepared enough for what we are seeing now. And that's why earlier when I said winter is about entering, I mean, so let's just try to manage our expectations. That's it.
All right, let us know what your thoughts are. The WhatsApp number is 0809 440 981. From The Guardian, the House of Representatives yesterday have raised an alarm that the NNPCL had withheld public revenue to about the tune of 2 trillion naira. Honorable Uduak Odudo, who raised the allegation in a motion, accused the NNPCL of disrespecting and downplaying the collective intelligence of Nigerians.
Okay, so immediately when I saw this story, Fela's song started to play in my head. Coincidentally, it happens to be one of my favorite songs from Fela. The one that starts with "You be thief, I no be thief, you be rogue, I no be rogue," and so on and so forth. Argument, argument. Why that song? Because just 2 months ago, the managing director of NNPC says the government is owing NNPC 2.8 trillion naira. And today, an arm of government is accusing the same NNPC of willfully keeping government's 2.8 trillion. Okay, so the NNPC's explanation was that the subsidy money for 2022 and the half for 2023, I think 6 trillion and 3.75 trillion that was put in the budget, which they weren't financing, they weren't paying to NNPC to pay their suppliers. So NNPC says, from after paying my royalties, my joint venture partners, my taxes, every money I have to pay, salaries, everything, because that's the setup of NNPC itself. Now I have to also pay the subsidy because I am the one that is representing government to the people who are bringing the fuel for me, right? So by the time I pay all these monies, there is no money left. I've even overspent. So that is the government that is owing NNPC. That's what the MD said then. So now here we are. The National Assembly says they owe 2 trillion. The second part of the story is, for me, every day, almost every other market day, there's one probe or the other being called for at the National Assembly since 1999. We can I'm sure none of us will be able to recall the number of probes of any government agency at all that has happened in that time. Where had been the results of the previous probes? Where had been the white paper? Where had been the execution of the reports that were submitted? What has been the consequences? What have we seen? What have been the benefits of the findings? What have we benefited? What have we gained? What have we lost from those probes? Why do we think that this one will not just be another one that we just speak into the air? I mean, we can't be spending those kind of money, the humongous amount of money we hear to maintain a national assembly, and all we hear is hot talk and nothing coming out of it. That needs to change. This arm of government need to show on whose side they are, the side of themselves as individuals, the side of the people, or the side of the government. They need to be clear about that. So we need to know what exactly has happened, because the Nigerian constitution says all monies due to the federal government must go to a federal allocation account where it will now be shared across all tiers of government. Now, NNPC in his own case, before it was privatized, says that you make all the money, spend all of it that you need to spend, then what is remaining, a certain percentage of it you give me, and then the whatever remains that you have kept for yourself is your profit to be shared however, whatever. But here we are. So does it mean that NNPC all this while had been running at a loss? Because that's what it means. If it says government is owing it 2 trillion naira, where is the money that it's been using to run its businesses? If government is being owed 2 trillion naira, how can your own agency be owing you money as well? How does that happen? So those are the things that we need to sort out of this thing, so that we're not just speaking into the air.
All right, let's go on to the messages coming in via WhatsApp. This is from Dami. Dami from Anthony says, asking Nigerians to manage expectations is just asking us to accept whatever is dished from on high. What happened to the responsibility of the government to make life easier for the people? And this message says, welcome to deregulation. Let's get used to paying for what we use and move on from this subsidy that turned us into poorer debtors. We need to pay attention to what our government, federal and state, do with the increased revenue. That's where the real battle is. Dakbalawal says, Lakunle, you're spot on. We need to manage our expectations. And this one is from Pastor Dakbo. He says, it's not just all about subsidy removal, but putting the cart before the horse. Sensitivity is important, and all the cash saved from the subsidy removal should be channeled into getting the dormant refineries to shape. No evident cuts in the cost of governance on ground. The high inflation has created a financial vacuum, and it's basically a case of taking from Peter to pay Paul. It's grossly unjustified. You're listening to Freshly Pressed on Smooth 98.1. Let us know what your thoughts are. The WhatsApp number is 0809 440 981. And you can also tweet at Smooth981. Do stay with us. The show continues. 98.1. It just feels good. All right. Hi, Alex. Good morning.
The best way to grow your money. I'm here to tell you about ARM. ARM is all
The
about
800 million, is that the 500 billion?
No,
Two separate amounts.
No, I think it's the same money. It's a grant actually from the World Bank. You know, these
It's
guys
not a grant.
inherited the money. It was a grant. That's what they were calling it before Daddy Boo.
Okay, so that's okay, so that's what they're reappropriating. Okay, let me just do the.
I think they used the old official rate that time to translate it to 500 billion.
Okay.
I think that's what they did.
Okay, it's 800 million. Almost $1 billion. Yeah.
As 1,000 naira. That's amazing. For more information, visit arm.com.
I guess I've been sitting in here for a few hours, so.
That is
It's just about normal.
271 5002.
All right, we're back on in 10.
Go by the name Santa. Don't touch that dial.
You're listening to Freshly Pressed on Smooth 98.1. The analysts are in. It's Lakunle and Devoe. And let us know what your thoughts are. We see your messages coming through. Please keep them coming. WhatsApp number 0809 440 981. You can also tweet at Smooth981. We're streaming live on YouTube, so you can catch that live stream. It's Smooth 981 FM Lagos. From Punch, President Bola Tinubu says his administration will review its earlier plan to distribute monthly cash grants of 8,000 naira to 12 million households for 6 months. And this move was in part of efforts to assuage the hardship caused by the removal of the fuel subsidy.
We can spend the whole day on this article, honestly. This is the story I was waiting for. Now, people have screamed, outrage has been out there regarding one step that the government was going to take in terms of cushioning the effect. And the presidency has said that they will review the 8,000 cash palliative. Remember, this was announced about 2 weeks ago when the presidency said that to cushion the effect, this is a step before all the other considerations under the different items that the NLC and the TUC raised in front of the government. Now, they mentioned that the $800 million, which the World Bank had made available for Nigeria in the last administration, would be reappropriated. So instead of going towards infrastructure that they had planned, they would use that as an immediate buffer for Nigerians. Now, whilst that is a good idea, remember, implementation is always our problem. How that will be done is what was now disputed. Now, let me clarify the premise of this money. This 500 billion that is being distributed to the poorest of the poor, it was meant to go to 8,000 naira for 12 million households. Now, by way of maths, a household in Nigeria averagely is mom and pop, and 4 children. That's 6 people. Okay, so if you just even use 5 times 8, you get around 40 million, 50 million people. Okay, that this money is going to address. Now, in the World Bank's view, poorest of the poor are people who cannot afford a meal with $1 per day. $1, then either you use 500, you use 800. It means the 8,000 naira, if you use today's exchange rates, was meant to last them for 10 days. So meaning a household will use 800 naira per day for 10 days under this, and that household has 6 people, right? Let's not even dispute whether 800 naira can feed them a day. Now, even given that, let's even just say, okay, for those people who don't even eat in a day, if they get 800 naira, that's something, yes. However, the last MBS publication on the poorest of the poor in this country, which was termed as multi-dimensional, that is, you are poor in many ways, was at 133 million. Now, with 40 million people being addressed here, that's just 1/4. What happens to the remaining 90 million? And we're talking of the poorest of the poor. We haven't even gotten to you and me, right? Those who are on minimum wage earning 30,000, inflation all this while has wiped it out completely. So they have joined the poorest of the poor, which takes up the figure to about maybe 150 million Nigerians. So the issue here is this, right? In this 800 million that was shared, or I mean that was loaned, that the Senate approved, remember some amounts of it went to housing, some amounts of it went to the National Assembly. That was about 110 billion for exotic bulletproof cars and then their own furniture revamp, right? Another amount went to the judiciary. My expectation, and I'm referring to you, Lakunle, and this is how government manages the expectations of people who have nothing, is if this was all you could even squeeze out at this point in time, I don't expect senators, National Assembly representatives, the judiciary to be on the first cuts of the little that we have as a nation. I would have expected, because nobody's disputing that they should get their cars or that they should not fix the judiciary and change their tables for them. After all, many of our children go to school without tables. So if the House of Assembly does not have, the National Assembly does not have chairs for how many weeks or months, I'd expect them to show leadership, sensitivity. Don't be tone deaf when your countrymen and women are suffering and dying, not able to pay their transportation, their feeding, their medical affairs, to shift your own necessities at this point in time and maybe add that portion of 150 billion and say, oh, in view of the sufferings of Nigerians, I expect that we will shift, we will defer, we will delay our own entitlements so that greater number of Nigerians can be addressed. This is the issue at hand. Remember, nobody said that the federal government is going to have everything, but how they manage this is going to show a lot, whether they're here for us or they're here for themselves.
All right, let's go to the messages coming through. Shegun says, good that this 8,000 naira palliative will be reviewed. This is a good sign that the government is listening. We are making progress. And D says, Nigerians regularly canvassed for removal of subsidy without mentioning the need for palliative before removal. Now the government is taking away the subsidy as requested. Therefore, let's take responsibility for our
Nigerians
actions.
did. That's not a true statement.
God bless the analysts. Okay, I would say amen on their behalf. JP says, until NNPC goes the way of the NLNG, it's a long road ahead.
They have. They're
Yinka
private.
Bolu says, first we agreed that the subsidy had to go. Next was the floating of the exchange rate. We also know that the FX rate is a major component of the PMS pricing. So I struggle to understand why there are so many complaints about the PMS price increase. It shows that the media needs to enlighten and constantly help educate the populace, because this is a job for everyone, really. The next 6 months, at the least, will be rough, but if we can wait it out, it will be beneficial to us all in the end. Once again, we are all in this together because this was a decision that we should have taken years ago. And Chukwemeka says, I can ask our leaders to be more considerate for once. Hunger in the land, and we hear probes. Their attitude is rather irritating. Let's go on to the next headline. The WhatsApp number, by the way, 0809 440 and 981. The House of Representatives on Tuesday resolved to reconsider outstanding bills from the Ninth Assembly. Now, this was moved by House Leader Julius Ihonvere for the bills that have been listed.
Okay, so government is a continuum. No matter the arm of government that is involved. One of the biggest, maybe let me say, the comma that this 10th National Assembly has is the number of first timers in both chambers of the National Assembly. I think somebody was pointing out that almost the number is above 60%.
Yeah, 70%.
About 70%, yeah,
Turnover.
of new timers. So that might just be the disadvantage this 10th Assembly would have in terms of how quickly they settle into doing all these things. But it's a good thing that they are not totally going to ignore the things that were left on the table by the Ninth Assembly. They're picking it up and following through with it. And I see some of the bills that are of interest. The National Library of Nigeria, I'll try to find and read up what that new bill is, because we can see that the libraries, our public libraries, virtually don't exist anymore. State-owned, federal-owned, whatever. Even libraries in our institutions of learning are not so great, right? So I'd like to see the content of that bill about the National Library. I'd like to see the bill about the Nigerian Police Force College and Training School, and then there's an interesting one here: Nigerian Hunters and Forest Security Service. I'd like to see that to understand what we are trying to speak to in that as well. So, like I said again, then there's one also, Federal Medical Centers, because right now I know that in some states, where there are universities who want to establish a faculty or a medical school, they are asking, or a federal university, they are asking that the Federal Medical Center in that state be upgraded to a teaching hospital. I'd like to see how this bill would address that kind of request and changes. So these are interesting bills that we really need to follow up with, and would be nice to see them see the light of day. And as we move on, this is a good one from the House of Reps for now.
All right, let's go on to some of the messages that we have coming through. 0809 440 981. That is the WhatsApp number. Lekon says, whereas the opposition party, they need to do more. And Olabode says, for someone collecting. Sorry? Yes, you can.
Yeah. So opposition, maybe we should not call it opposition at this point. What would they be opposing exactly in this matter? I thought we all were agreeable that subsidy should go. I think where we should be now is everybody contributing something positive to how we're going to get out of this as quickly as possible. I don't think that we should be saying either they should bring it back or they should do gradual removal or something that is going to take us back to
but the implementation
before. I understand what opposition means, but I'm saying so that we don't misconstrue the term opposition to mean going back to where we were before, because we have now put 1 foot in the water and we see that the current is faster than we thought, then we will step back. No. What we should be thinking of is everybody, we are in this together. We are going to swim and sink or float together in this. So our contributions to how we're going to get out of it should be positive.
All right. Bass says, multidimensional poverty is not about the poorest of the poor the way it's portrayed. The 8,000 naira has been said to be one of the palliatives to be provided, and we can understand that some people truly need this money. JP says, being private by name and not board or ownership structure isn't the same. Government owns 100% of the NNPCL. There is no private ownership.
Interesting.
And let's go on to the next story. We have just a couple of minutes for this. From The Guardian, former Chief of Army Staff Lieutenant General Tukur Buratai says Nigeria currently ranks 5th globally in countries affected by organized crime, coming behind nations like the DRC, Colombia, Myanmar, and Mexico.
I'll read it slowly because I'm sure many people don't understand what this means.
We have less than 2 minutes.
Yes. Nigeria ranks 5th globally. Global, meaning there are like 150 something countries globally. Sorry, 190 something countries globally. In countries affected by organized crime. Okay, you see, organized crime is the beginning and the end of Nigeria. If you want to capture Nigeria in one story, just use the word organized crime. Organized crime is crimes that take place in neat ways, cute ways that you cannot see, sophisticated ways that when people are trying to discuss it, they can't even understand. E.g., at the top of the list, crude oil theft. You see, crude oil theft is not this drama you see on TV of them catching ships of 5,000 barrels, okay? Nigeria loses like 500,000 barrels a day. So when you catch a ship with 5,000 barrels, you are joking. You've not even started. And when nobody questions what really happened, that is what you refer to as organized crime. So when Buratai comes out to say these things, I think the media needs to take time and break down what is really meant. Look at the countries we're coming beside. Colombia. We know what Colombia is famous for. Mamnia, Mexico. Come on.
DRC.
I mean, there's some content and some drama, Nollywood drama that needs to come out of this.
Okay, we have a lot of messages. Unfortunately, we can't take them all. I'm just going to read this one. And it says, good to hear that the issue of this palliatives is being reviewed. It's an indication that the president is listening. I think the government should look into a situation where burden on the masses can be reduced, i.e. education, transportation, healthcare, shelter, and others. And that is all the time that we have for Freshly Pressed. Thank you for your messages. Thank you for listening. And of course, special thanks to our analysts, Lakunle and